It's taken me 5 years to make this video, and that's because it's taken 5 years to build this garden. And that is why today I'm going to take you in for my epic garden tour, the first tour. I hope this is a memory for myself, and I hope this just gives you ideas and inspiration for what you're doing in your garden. So I am my own camera woman today, and my name is Olia, by the way, never introduced myself. I'm going to show you around. This is the garden. It is still a work in progress, as you can tell. My husband's delivering some mulch over there. As you enter in by one of the gates, here's my little kitchen compost bin for the summertime. You can see a lot of projects going on over there, and I'll tell you guys about that in a moment. But I have a total of 12 garden beds, raised garden beds. We built these out of tin with treated posts sunk in and wood on the outside. These treated pieces of wood are not sunk in, they're just on the surface. So if we ever have to replace these boards, we can easily do that because these will hold everything in place, and it keeps the garden beds from not bulging out. So as I said, I have 12 of these garden beds, and alongside that, I also have a very large in-ground garden area, so let me show you that first. On the in-ground garden, right now I have a cover crop growing. These are field peas, and they're actually quite delicious. And a friend of mine told me that I could eat these, and I've been enjoying them. We have some wormwood, which is just an herb, or not really an herb, but it's a medicinal plant. I have skullcap growing here, which is a very medicinal plant. And what I'm going to be doing here shortly is actually hacking this down and turning this into a green manure, because this is where my corn and squash are going to go. Continuing on to this area, this is my monster strawberry patch, and I'm so proud of the strawberry patch because if you look at it, it is ginormous. I have the wider lens on right now just so you can see it all, but I've been covering it from the birds. I've left this area uncovered because we have a little critter that's decided to make his way in. So my husband set some traps, and hopefully we'll get him or her. We've been battling moles in the garden and gophers out in the field. We've gotten a few, but it is a constant battle. Oh, you can see he has made his way into this area, I think. So we're gonna have to get a handle on that. But these are Oregon hood strawberries. And what's crazy is I actually started by planting 2 rows in this area. It was just 2 rows, strawberries spaced about a foot apart. And this was 5 years ago. And they went from over there to over here, and have literally started taking over my entire garden, which is the best. And I've been giving strawberry starts away. I've been sharing strawberries with tons of people. They just bring me so much joy. But as a result, I'm using this fabric and kind of lining it around them on the surface to keep the strawberries from taking over absolutely everything, even though I love them. And I've been picking like a basket a day. Over here, these are my surface potato patches. So because of the critters that we have that are coming up from underground, I've had a hard time growing potatoes. I can't grow them in the ground because of all the moles and voles. So I made a pile of dirt on top. There's fabric underneath, probably about 6 inches of really heavy composted mulch, this stuff that we have everywhere. And I put down some dirt. There you can see it. And then I put the potato on top of it and covered it up barely. I mean, you could see the little tops of the potatoes. And then I covered it with lots of straw. And this is an experiment. I want to see if I can successfully grow potatoes inside straw and mulch with the straw. My hope is that the critters will not be burrowing into the straw. So we'll find out if that is going to work or not. So over here is my tomato bed. We have kind of these posts up, and I use this to run a string that I can then tie my tomatoes up to. Temporarily, because of the climate that we're in, I'm kind of on the border of 2 areas, and I will often get snow, and a half mile down there is no snow. So because of the higher elevation and cooler temperatures, I have these hoops in that I can literally just pop out and pop in and cover the tomatoes with plastic on really cold nights. I actually had a moment where I thought I had lost all of my tomatoes. I lost half of every start that I had within hours because of a rapidly spreading kind of a fungal situation. And it's amazing. Like, God knew what I needed. He left me with exactly what I needed. And I had just enough tomatoes to plant both of these beds. Now I've amended them with, I have rabbits. So I put down a lot of rabbit droppings, lots of compost, and then I mulch heavily with straw. And it is June, 8th, 9th, or 10th? I don't even know what day it is. And they're doing fantastic. This is the second garden bed. And as you can see, these are more of the saucy tomatoes. I need to stake them. I need to prune them. I need to actually give them a little support now because they are ready for it. And they already have lots of flowers, which I'm so excited. They're looking so good. And then this very first bed, actually, when we walked in, this is my miscellaneous bed. I have just basils that I stuck in, tomatoes. These have not been protected during some really cold temperatures. We hit in the upper 30s on some nights earlier in the month of June even, and they've survived. I have cosmos flowers, curly parsley, kale that's just growing on its own, which I am actually eating it as tiny salad greens. Some herbs and things are coming up on their own that I didn't even plant. These will be flowers. And then I actually have, if you look closely, there are flowers, more cosmos that are going to be coming up all around the garden. Now this space right here is actually in progress. So I have these holes that I made last year, and inside these holes I planted squash, and I added amendments into these holes, but I felt that it wasn't enough amendments. So this year what I'm doing is I'm going to be combining a couple of holes together, opening up this space and making a large extra little garden bed, really dumping extra stuff in there, and then planting melons and cantaloupes because I get a lot of sun here. Like I said, if you hear sounds, my husband's actively working over there. We have machinery across the street and a little bit of a wind. So hopefully I'm not hating the audio when I go to edit this and upload it. But this right here is, we have beans. And here is beans. I have one coming up, which gives me hope. And I hope there will be others, but you just never know when you seed direct. You don't know if the birds are gonna get in here and eat a bunch of seeds out. So I guess I'll just have to wait and see. I did seed some beans into pots, so it is a possibility that if I need to, I can put more in here. And these are my peppers, one of my favorite things to grow. I feel like I finally cracked the code. I do also have hoops on them because if it gets cold at night, I end up covering them up. And a really cool trick, not a trick, but just something I started doing is when I put the fabric down, I use these pressure treated boards to put on top of the plastic or fabric. And then I use Harbor Freight clamps to clamp that down. And it prevents the plastic or fabric from tearing and allows me to reuse it over and over again. Here we have garlic, and over there I have another bed of garlic. So I have two. I love my garlic. This is Siberian. We actually have garlic scapes right now. So these are fun to harvest, pick, saute with some butter, and they're so delicious. So I'll be doing that later today, harvesting some garlic scapes. I'll be harvesting garlic probably in a few more weeks, probably sometime end of June, July. So I'm really excited about that. Moving on to another pride and joy of mine. I love growing cabbage. I love it. I love making fermented things, and the issue that I've always had, pests and bugs. So I've been growing my greens under bug fabric, which prevents me from having to spray. I can reuse this fabric many times, and it just makes life so much simpler, and it still allows the rain to come through. So on top of using the fabric, I also have this white shade cloth. It basically allows for a percentage of the sun to come through, and it provides some shading. So it keeps the cool loving crops cooler on the really hot days. Let me show you what I have inside. How amazing it all is. It literally just kind of explodes when you start opening it up. So we have cabbage here, and these heads are almost, I think, ready to be harvested. I need to double check, but this is going to be Napa cabbage for kimchi. And then we have some broccoli. I've already harvested some. Some of it is still obviously not ready yet. Oh, we have a little head here. I have Swiss chard, which my animals love more than I do. We have kale, which sometimes I wonder, why do I even grow this much kale? More cabbage on the other side, cilantro, and then somewhere down in the center, I used to have some lettuce. I probably still do. Of course, there's quite a bit of weeds, but we just sort of ignore them because what are you gonna do? They're kind of everywhere. So let me show you what's in the second one. So I'm gonna go ahead and open it up, crossing my fingers that the bugs don't decide to come in here. And so sometimes the clamps get a little rusty. Just give it a good little tap, but for the most part, they're so easy to use. Okay. Gosh, this one's one of my favorites. There's so much goodness in here. Look at all of that, guys. Just look at it. I'm so proud of my greens. But I think what mostly I'm most excited about, I've been battling all sorts of stuff, and to finally have a way to grow my veggies that works, it just makes me so happy. So here we have beautiful cabbage heads. Oh my gosh, they just look so beautiful. Like, how is this not beautiful? Makes me like want to look at it more than I even want to eat it sometimes. Yeah, I pulled out some potatoes. I thought it was just a random weed poking out, but they're finally starting to form. So here soon, oh no, I broke a leaf. Well, guess I'm gonna do something with you. Put it down here for now. And then underneath, what I was trying to show is at one point I had lettuce growing. So I still have some very soft, delicate lettuce that I am able to get in and harvest. And I seed it very thick. So while the cabbage is still forming, we're able to eat some of the understory crops, which there they are. They're in there, but they're almost non-existent. Now I'm going to tell you a really cool secret about my garden beds. I usually let one garden bed rest for a season, and then what I do is I compost in the bed. So everything goes inside of here, and basically it breaks down, it rests, it builds the soil, and when I go to plant in there, I literally just plant. I don't add anything. This is what happens. It just grows. It's just so healthy. The bugs don't even want to touch it. I mean, of course I use this stuff. So I highly recommend making your own compost. Once we harvest it, whatever parts of the plants we don't use is either going to the animals or back into the garden bed to break down. Now as we make our way to past the second garlic bed, same thing. You can see the first few leaves start dying back. That's a good sign. And we also have tons of garlic scapes to harvest here. For those of you that do not know what garlic scapes are essentially like a little seed head that ends up coming out of the top of each garlic plant. And it is very recommended to pick all of them off like this. Otherwise, you're putting energy into these things instead of the bulbs, and I want bigger bulbs. So I will be picking every single one of these, hoping I do not miss any, and then eating them with butter. Okay, this right here is going to be a watermelon. I'm gonna have a watermelon growing out from this area, And then that is where my cucumbers are going to climb up. And I already have cucumber seedlings popping up. And I designed kind of my own way of building a cucumber trellis. So I take all of these tomato cages and I stack them. And then I'm going to come in with zip ties and zip tie them where they connect. So basically right there and right there, adjusting height if I need to. And the cucumbers, I'll probably thin them out a little bit so I have 2 or 3 per mound. They are going to climb up this monstrosity. And then I'm going to take more tomato cages, flip them upside down so this wide round end is facing these wide round ends. And I'm going to place them overlapping where the two connect. And I'm going to build more connections basically. And it's going to create an extremely sturdy, solid mountain of cucumbers. I did this last year and it works so well because the leaves on the outside protect the cucumbers on the inside and it keeps them like the perfect texture. They don't get too hot or sun scorched. Behind me is my onion bed. These onions, there's Walla Wallas. There's a couple different varieties. I should have planted 2 beds of onions, but I actually ran out of time this year. So we do what we can with what, with the time that we have. More flowers over there. There's my husband doing stuff. As we make our way over, here is the miscellaneous compost pile. This is like branches, twigs, grass clippings, leaves, and this allows me to come in with a tractor or him with the mini excavator and stir it up. This right here is a patch of raspberries. Now they're growing on top of landscape fabric, and so they're actually growing in the mulch on top of the fabric, and they're not getting as much nutrients as I would like them to, and in the summertime they really start to struggle. So what I've been doing is digging them out and moving them back here to a brand new kind of like herb/raspberry patch area that I've built. So this is 3 rows of blueberries. I have different varieties, younger plants, older plants. I actually picked all these up from different places and planted them this year, all but the first 3. And they'll fill out. There's already a ton of blueberries on them, and this is like one of my favorite fruits. So I've always dreamed of a monstrous blueberry patch like my strawberry patch. Some of these have tons of little berries, and some of the others have the monstrous berries that I'm so excited about. So they're starting to ripen, so hopefully they do well here. We do have a mole that's wreaking havoc that I'm trying to get right now. This spot over here is a brand new bed. It's not finished yet, but as you can see, we have flowers and herbs on the perimeter. The 2 rows of raspberries. So these 2 rows are raspberries, the little walkway down the center, kind of like lining up with this little greenhouse that I have. And so far they're taking. They are alive after me moving them. I don't expect much raspberries this year, but hopefully in the coming years I will. And this little mound is a saffron patch. I don't know if it's going to sprout. I might have waited too long to plant my bulbs, but we're going to find out. I've always thought saffron flowers are beautiful, and they're medicinal, and they're a very expensive spice. We have lavender, decorative creeping little flowers. I forgot what these are. I want to say there's a balsam, peppermint sticks, some kind of a herbal mint related plant here, probably this one. And I honestly forgot what I even planted. Couldn't tell you. I have it written down somewhere. But we have some basils that are struggling. It looks like they have a nutrient issue. Maybe need some more water. I don't know, but they look like they're struggling. This soil is very sandy, so I've had to add quite a bit to it. These herbs are doing good. So a lot of experimentation, kind of figuring out what works, what doesn't. We have oregano over here. Marshmallow. Marshmallow seems to be doing good. And more flowers, more climbing things. Now this is the first garden bed that I planted when we moved here. And I've been sort of adding to it over the years, but it mainly consists of valerian, mullein, flowers, rosemary, lavender that I bought last year on sale and have not planted yet. It's actually sent roots into the ground, so I actually have to dig it out, which is what has allowed it to stay alive. I don't know who else does that. Buys plants because they're on sale, but doesn't have any time to plant them. More valerian sprouting, a random weed. This is a medicinal yarrow. Beautiful lavender that has just literally taken over the garden. If I zoom out, you can see how much space. More yarrow. I like to harvest this and tincture it and make teas. I'm going to be reinstating my pathways here soon. That is a project that's going to happen. Echinacea. Look at this beautiful valerian. So the roots of this plant are extremely calming and medicinal. The bees love it, but I also like to, when the plant dies back, I'm going to have to put little flags of where the plant was and then dig out the roots, leave some for later and harvest them. It started with one plant over here, and since then it's just been spreading, and I love that. Same thing with the thyme. I planted one tiny plant and I have thyme everywhere. Lemon balm is like mint. It goes everywhere too, but I don't mind. The bees love it, and I try to cut the flowers down before they have a chance to go to seed. This is a bee balm. It's going to be a beautiful flower. Also medicinal, has a lovely smell to the leaves when you crush it. And then the bees love it. Strawberries everywhere, as you can tell. It's a little bit breezy, so hopefully you guys are not getting overrun with the wind. But I have more herbs. Most of my peas did not come up this year because the critters got to them. I should have started them as starts and then planted them. We have some basil, which I need to come in and harvest this so it bushes out. Miscellaneous bed. We have parsley, lemon balm that I need to remove because I do not want lemon balm in here. So I just pick it and either bring it in for tea or pick it. There is more valerian. How it got in here, I have no idea. Cilantro, extra lettuce. This is my little greenhouse, and what we have in here is my shelving. On the far wall, bins with soil. It's kind of empty right now. I do have some starts I need to bring in for squash and a couple other stuff that I planted. Extra shelving. We do have a wasp problem in here, so I'm constantly fighting them with various techniques. But I love this little greenhouse. We found it, my husband found it at a job site and retrofitted it with all these things, but it was just a frame. Somebody had a little frame of a little house and we turned it into a greenhouse. So as we make our way kind of to the last area, here's my garden shed. I'm quite proud of the fact that it is an organized mess in here, but I know where everything is. And I do need to get more shelving so I can get a lot of the stuff off the ground. But all the things. Okay, this last bit. These are the plants I need to plant. We have flowers. We have some bee balm. And all of these things are going to go on that outside perimeter of the garden where I had the cosmos that were kind of planted out. I want a beautiful wall of flowers and squash over there. Preferably flowers that will come back every year. Saving these to go with my squash. See, I have more thyme everywhere. More stuff. And then this is more bee balm. It looked like it had died. And the lemon balm had seeded in there, but it is coming back. So I need to pick out the lemon balm seeds and the random yarrow sprouts. And no, it's salvia. That's right. I thought it died, but it did not. So I need to get this in the ground. I need to amend it, and I need to remove these little distractors. We have extra random strawberries that I stuck in here. And then this is kind of like my little storage where I keep miscellaneous pots and stuff. A little cooling station with my sunblock. And then this I need your help with. If you have suggestions for shade-loving medicinal herbs, please let me know. I'd like to actually fill this space with perennials. You also have a suggestion for mole traps. Tell us what works. I have more lettuce I need to pick. Just miscellaneous things in here. Some of it grew on its own. Now finally, let's go say hi to my bunnies. I don't know if it's going to be too dark in here. Turn the light on. I don't know if that's doing anything, but let's say hi to the animals. So these guys are American chinchilla bunnies, and they are in my garden because they are my fertilizers. Hi, babies. Come on. I thought I was going to get into breeding bunnies, and I still can. I have 2 breeding pairs. Chungus, come here, Bubba. He's a little camera shy. Come on, but he's a lover. Probably smells all the herbs on my hand. Hi, sweet girl. And what's cool is on the far end, they actually have a second outdoor area that they can hop out into. And then their droppings come down onto the tin. My husband put tin everywhere because the boys like to pee sideways. And then we have these bins that we got at Tractor Supply, which are great because they overlap and nothing ends up on the floor. It all ends up where it needs to go. I did have a chicken living in here for a while, so she certainly made a mess. And let me show you the back side of the rabbit house. So my husband did an amazing job building this. We have a little shade cloth on here because the southwest sun is really hard on them in the heat of summer. But this gives them a little bit of shade. Hi guys. So these are the little outdoor areas. We have more bins for catching the droppings, but these pipes lead to an underground play area that they can go down into because it stays nice and cool in there. And what my husband did is he drilled holes into these so they have like grip. And they haven't really started using them yet. We know they can physically make it up there because we've put one in and he's been able to go up. But they're domestic bunnies. They're still learning. They're not used to tunnels. And then I need to get some what are they? Safety cones, the things you put around a dog's neck, and clip them on here, rig them a little because the droppings hit the pipe and they go out, and I want them in there because I want to use them in the garden. A really cool thing about rabbit droppings is that you don't have to wait for them to compost. You could literally get them out of the bins and put them directly into the garden, which is why I love my bunnies. So from the back side of the garden, you can get a view of what we're looking at. There's a gate almost on every side to allow easy access in and out. And this little spot under this tree and by this wild Oregon plum that grows these interesting little baby cherry looking plums that the birds eat is one of my favorite little things. I love sitting here on a hot day, starts getting shade just as the sun starts getting super hot, and it makes a perfect little refuge from the heat of the summer. Before I forget, this is my eggplant bed, but I do have a bunch of other stuff growing here. I have tons of basil, which looks like it's about to flower, so I need to go ahead and start picking basil, making some pesto. I have some parsley, some cabbage or kale, I don't even remember. I just stuck some random things in here that I had extras of. A miscellaneous pepper, some weeds, kale, surprisingly is doing pretty good. Some more eggplant, some flowers, and yeah, more medicinal basils. I love these. These are my favorite. Holy basil, more florals. It's just going to be beautiful once it all fills out. I've never actually grown eggplant successfully before because I always started it too late, and this one is from seed, so quite proud of myself. And that is my garden. I need to warn you guys about something really important, or a caveat is whenever people are sharing their gardens, or when I look at other people's gardens, the way they do things is different. They have different tools and resources, and we're all in different situations. So some of the stuff that you saw here is on a quite grand scale because we have access to my husband's business equipment, which is heavy machinery. Whenever we're building things, we're exchanging either time or money, and whatever resources we have, which are kind of in the money category. And so if you don't have the resources, you can't go rent the thing or buy the thing. That means you're doing it by hand. And by hand, totally possible, it just takes more time. So if you're gonna go out and build a ginormous garden, it's gonna take you either more time or less time. It took us 5 years with the resources that we have, both working, both running our own businesses. And so, the garden for me is my happy place. This is, where I get inspired, where I heal, literally. This is where I find inspiration because I'm an artist. I do believe we were put on this earth to be tenders of the garden, to be caretakers of the earth, to tend to everything that was, created around us. And so once I discovered how much I love the garden and what the garden means to me, I felt that I found my true self. So I hope that if anything, you enjoyed just watching this. Maybe it gave you some ideas of what you can do on your scale. And if you have any suggestions for some of the things I asked about or troubles I'm having, feel free to share them with you because we can all learn from each other. And I'm excited to hear about what you're doing that might help me, right? So until next time, and hope to see you soon.